Daniel Carter adjusted his suit and looked around the grand ballroom with quiet pride. The chandeliers above sparkled like stars, reflecting off polished marble floors and glasses of champagne held by the city's most powerful people. This was his moment. After years of hard work, risks, and bold decisions, he had finally reached the top. Tonight's business summit was not just another event, it was proof that he belonged among the elite. Executives, investors, and media representatives moved around the room, laughing, networking, and praising his recent success. His company had just secured a major deal, and everyone wanted to be close to him. Daniel smiled confidently as he shook hands, his voice calm and assured. "You've done an incredible job, Daniel," one investor said. "This is just the beginning," Daniel replied smoothly. Beside him stood Sophia, elegant and charming, her hand resting lightly on his arm. She was everything he believed matched his new life: beautiful, sophisticated, and admired by others. Together, they looked like a perfect power couple. As the host stepped onto the stage to begin the evening's main announcement, the room slowly quieted. Conversations faded, and all attention turned forward. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host began, his tone filled with excitement. "Tonight, we are honored to welcome a very special guest. A visionary leader, a woman whose influence has reshaped global business." A soft murmur spread across the crowd. Daniel straightened slightly, curious. Even he hadn't been informed about this guest. The large doors at the end of the ballroom opened. For a moment, everything seemed to slow. A woman stepped inside, dressed in a simple yet stunning black gown. There was no need for flashy jewelry or loud presence. Her confidence spoke louder than anything else. People immediately moved aside, creating a clear path for her. Some lowered their heads slightly in respect. Others whispered her name in awe. Daniel felt a strange tension rise in his chest. There was something familiar about her. As she walked closer, her face became clearer under the golden light. And then, his breath caught. His smile disappeared. His world tilted. Because the woman everyone was welcoming with such respect was Emily Carter, his ex-wife. The same woman he had once called ordinary. The same woman he had left behind without a second thought. Now, she stood before him, not broken, not forgotten, but powerful beyond imagination. And in that moment, for the first time in years, Daniel felt something he had not expected to feel again: fear. The sight of Emily standing in that grand ballroom pulled Daniel's mind back to a past he had tried to forget. Years ago, their life had been very different. Back then, they lived in a small apartment, far from luxury and attention. Emily Carter had been a simple woman with a warm heart and gentle nature. She believed in Daniel when no one else did. While he struggled to build his company from nothing, she stood beside him quietly, supporting him in every possible way. She cooked his meals, encouraged him during failures, and stayed awake late at night just to listen to his ideas. When he doubted himself, she reminded him of his dreams. When he felt like giving up, she gave him strength. "You will succeed one day," she used to tell him with a soft smile. "I believe in you." And for a while, Daniel did appreciate her. But success changes people. As his business slowly began to grow, so did his ego. The humble man Emily once knew started to disappear. In his place came someone colder, more ambitious, and more concerned with status than love. New investors, new circles, and expensive lifestyles entered his world. With them came people who judged worth by appearance, money, and power. And then came Sophia. Sophia was everything Emily was not: glamorous, bold, and perfectly suited to Daniel's new image. She knew how to impress people, how to speak at events, how to make Daniel feel important in front of others. At first, it was just business meetings, then dinners, then late nights. Emily noticed the change, but she stayed quiet. Until one night, she could no longer ignore it. "I saw you with her," Emily said softly, her voice trembling but controlled. "Are you in love with her?" Daniel didn't even try to deny it. Instead, he sighed in frustration, as if the question itself annoyed him. "Emily, look at yourself," he said coldly. "You don't fit into my life anymore." Those words hit harder than any betrayal. "I've worked too hard to stay stuck in the past," he continued. I need someone who matches my level, someone who understands this world. Tears filled Emily's eyes, but she didn't argue. I've always supported you, she whispered. That was your choice, Daniel replied without emotion. But I've moved on. Days later, the divorce papers were placed in front of her. No apology, no regret, just a cold ending. Emily signed them quietly, her hands steady even as her heart broke. She packed her things without making a scene, without begging, without anger. Before leaving, she took one last look at the man she once loved. I hope you find what you're looking for, she said softly. Daniel didn't respond. And just like that, she walked out of his life, alone, heartbroken, and underestimated. He believed he had left behind an ordinary woman. He had no idea. He had just lost someone extraordinary. After the divorce, Emily Carter disappeared from Daniel's world as if she had never existed. For months, no one heard from her. To Daniel, she was simply part of his past, a quiet, ordinary woman who couldn't keep up with his success. He never once wondered where she went or what became of her. In his mind, she had nothing without him. But the truth was something he had never tried to understand. Emily had never been ordinary. Before meeting Daniel, she had chosen a simple life by choice, not by limitation. She came from a family that valued privacy over attention, discipline over display. Her father had built a powerful business empire, and Emily had grown up learning everything about leadership, finance, and strategy. But instead of stepping into that world immediately, she wanted a life based on love, not power. So she hid that part of herself. She supported Daniel not because she needed him, but because she believed in him. And when he broke that trust, something inside her changed forever. After the divorce, Emily returned to her roots. She stepped back into the world she had once left behind, the world of business, power, and influence. But this time, she was not the quiet observer. She was ready to lead. The early days were not easy. Heartbreak still followed her. There were nights she couldn't sleep, moments when memories of her past tried to pull her back. But instead of letting pain destroy her, she used it as fuel. She worked harder than ever before. She studied markets, led meetings, made bold decisions, and slowly began to rebuild herself, not just as a businesswoman, but as a person. Her quiet nature turned into calm confidence. Her kindness remained, but it was now protected by strength. People started to notice her. Not because of her past, but because of her presence. Emily was different. She didn't chase attention, it followed her. She didn't demand respect, she earned it. Within a few years, her name began appearing in major business circles. Her strategies brought massive success. Companies grew under her leadership. Investors trusted her vision. And soon, Emily Carter became more than successful. She became powerful. A billionaire businesswoman known for her intelligence, elegance, and control. The same woman who once stood silently behind her husband was now standing far above him. Not because she wanted revenge, but because she finally chose herself. The ballroom felt different now. What had once been a place of pride for Daniel Carter slowly turned into a space filled with pressure. The whispers around him were no longer about his success, but about her. All eyes followed Emily Carter as she walked with calm confidence, greeting powerful figures who treated her with the highest respect. Daniel stood frozen, his mind struggling to catch up with reality. Emily, his Emily, was the woman everyone was waiting for. Before he could gather his thoughts, the host's voice echoed through the hall again. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "we will now proceed with the final highlight of tonight's event, the acquisition announcement." Daniel straightened slightly, trying to regain control. This was still his moment. His company, though facing recent struggles, was about to secure a deal that could save everything. At this time, the host continued, "We are proud to reveal that the company acquiring Carter Industries is led by none other than Ms. Emily Carter." The words hit like a storm. For a second, Daniel couldn't breathe. The room filled with applause, but all he heard was silence. His company, his hard work, his last chance, was now in her hands. Emily stepped onto the stage with quiet grace, accepting the attention without arrogance. She didn't look at him immediately, but when she finally did, her expression was calm, almost distant. No anger. No sadness. Just control. After the announcement, as the crowd broke into conversations again, Daniel found himself walking toward her without thinking. Each step felt heavier than the last. "Emily," he called out, his voice lower than usual. She stopped. Slowly, she turned to face him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Up close, she looked even more different, stronger, untouchable. "I didn't know," Daniel began, his words unsure. "If I had known." Emily raised her hand slightly, stopping him before he could continue. "It wouldn't have changed anything," she said calmly. Her voice was soft, but it carried a weight that made him fall silent. Daniel swallowed hard, regret filling his chest. "I made a mistake," he admitted. "A big one. I wasn't thinking clearly back then. I thought success meant something else. I thought I needed someone better." Emily finished for him, her tone steady. He lowered his eyes. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "I can see that now. We could try again. Things are different. I'm different." For a brief second, hope flickered in his expression. But Emily didn't move, didn't soften, didn't hesitate. She simply looked at him, not as someone she once loved, but as someone she had already outgrown. Emily Carter held his gaze for a moment longer, her expression calm but firm. There was no anger in her eyes, only clarity. "Daniel," she said quietly, "you didn't make a mistake, you made a choice." Her words landed heavier than anything he had expected. "You didn't lose me because you were confused," she continued. "You lost me because you thought I wasn't enough." Daniel felt his throat tighten. He had no answer. "I stood beside you when you had nothing," Emily went on, her voice steady. "I believed in you when no one else did. But the moment you found success, you forgot who helped you get there." Each word was simple, but it cut deep. "I didn't leave because I was weak," she added. "I left because I finally understood my worth." Daniel looked at her, regret written all over his face. "Emily, please. I know I don't deserve it, but give me one more chance. We can fix this." For a brief second, silence stood between them. Then Emily shook her head gently. "Some things aren't meant to be fixed," she said. "And some people don't get a second chance." She took a small step back, creating distance, not just physically, but emotionally. "You taught me a very important lesson," she continued. "That love without respect means nothing. And I will never accept less than I deserve again." Daniel's shoulders dropped as the reality settled in. The woman he once dismissed now stood far beyond his reach, not because of her wealth, but because of her strength. Without another word, Emily turned away. The crowd naturally parted for her, just as they had when she first entered. But this time, Daniel noticed something he hadn't seen before, not just respect. Admiration. She didn't look back. Not once. As she walked forward, confident and unshaken, it became painfully clear to him. She had not returned for revenge. She had returned to close a chapter. And as Daniel stood there, surrounded by everything he once thought mattered, he finally understood the truth he had ignored for too long. He didn't lose an ordinary woman. He lost the one who made him extraordinary. And this time, she was gone for good.